My name is Joseph Russell. I'm head of product design at JH, and that means I oversee strategy, research, and design. Now, JH is a digital agency based here in Nottingham in the UK, and we specialise in creating first-class e-commerce experiences, specifically on the Magento platform. And we've been doing that for more than a decade now, helping a wide variety of brands exceed their goals and surpass their competition. And for the last few years, one of the biggest ways we've achieved that is with progressive web apps. As an early adopter, we have something of a unique understanding about how to design and build them the right way. More importantly, because we've had multiple launches, we've seen the enviable commercial results that they can achieve. And so, it's no wonder that progressive web apps has become our standard recommendation for merchants who want to be 2 steps ahead. Now, like any new technological advancement, it's really easy for a lot of the strategic conversation to focus on the how. It's no wonder, with so many questions, with so many ways of implementing a PWA, it's bound to go that way. And I think if that's what you need help with, then thankfully this event has a whole day dedicated to technical topics tomorrow. Instead, what I want to focus on today is the why, and specifically the opportunity to deliver an unparalleled experience to your customers. And a key to that is that we need to take a user-centered perspective, so that what you're able to do when you are thinking about how to bring PWA to them, you're able to connect their needs to the features that are available. Now, the good news is that progressive web apps are almost like purposefully designed to respond to the expectations of modern customers. In particular, people whose digital activity has become increasingly mobile first, and in many cases, mobile only. And that's driven continued growth of mobile commerce year over year. And I think through the pandemic, we've even seen that kind of just get an extra little boost. In the UK here, eCommerce accounted for more than 50% of online sales last year in 2020. And it's projected to exceed over £100 billion of sales value by 2024. Data, you can see here, aggregated from across our client portfolio, reflects this trend, this trend of mobile taking over. Last year, in fact, mobile was just tipping over the point of 50%, it's about 51% of sales. And you see now, 12 months later, it's closing in on making up 2/3 of the sales. But it could be even higher. It could be doing even better. Notice that little drop off there between mobile share of sessions and share of sales. This is due to the so-called mobile conversion gap, which has remained a challenge for merchants despite ongoing optimization work, split testing, new features, new propositions. It's really just been difficult to close that now. Mobile-centric consumers clearly have needs and behaviours that are not being satisfied by existing stores. And if we're going to close that gap, then the buying experience we provide needs a bigger rethink. Progressive web apps provide the kind of step change that is required. We've been through this kind of revolutionary watershed moment before, when the rapid uptake of smartphones led to the quick adoption of flexible, responsive designs. And PWA offer the same kind of radical impact. They're having that kind of radical impact for those people who have adopted them. And they are ushering in this new breed of high-performance websites. They achieve that by taking a hybrid approach to offer users the best of both worlds. So like a native app that they're used to having on their phone, progressive web apps feel part of the device they run on, with faster performance and richer functionality. That's while retaining the openness of the web, a single code base that can be run by anyone, anywhere, on any connected device. Now, Google defines the app-like experience which PWA can recreate using this handy little acronym. They say it should be fast to load and to run. It should be installable on the device. It should be reliable regardless of connection and engaging to use repeatedly. And it's by offering these things that people love about native apps that PWAs aim to meet those modern consumer expectations. So you might be thinking, if our customers love apps so much, why not just build one? Well, the reality is, for a lot of merchants, for a lot of businesses, apps are just too expensive to build, too expensive to maintain, and too expensive to market. It's just a non-starter. So let's bring it back to the users a minute. Research shows that native apps might not be what they want either. A report by Magento found that providing a good quality mobile website was twice as important to shoppers as offering a native app. And a separate study by Google Ipsos found that 50% of smartphone users are more likely to use a mobile site because they don't want to download an app. So there's a clear desire for e-commerce websites to perform better on mobile devices. So how exactly is a progressive web app going to delight your customers? And how does putting them first, how does thinking about their needs translate into results for your business? By exploring a few of the headline features, the multiple benefits for both sides start to emerge. If you ask me to optimize a website for customers, I will always start with performance. The conversion experts at Unbounce found that nearly 70% of consumers admit that loading speed influences their likeliness to buy. Underlying that is a hate of delays. Research carried out in 2016 by Ericsson showed that the level of stress caused by mobile delay is comparable to watching a horror movie. It's no wonder customer satisfaction and repeat business also suffer when a website is slow. Now, we've done a lot of benchmarking of speed and find that, UK-based Magento stores, typically have a load time that can be up to about 16 seconds. And Google's kind of global benchmarking this stuff puts the average website load time at 15 seconds. 15 seconds, that's a long time, right? Now, based on further studies of user behavior, Google recommends a load time of 5 seconds or less on a 3G connection. They say that user engagement metrics, stuff like bounce rate, whatnot, are considerably better if you can load faster than this. However, they also report that 53% of mobile visitors will go ahead and do that bounce after just 3 seconds. Not to mention the fact that 1 out of 2 people expect a page to load in 2 seconds. So if you're somebody running one of these stores for 15 seconds, that is a huge gap to make up. Now, through smarter management of downloads, caching, and prefetching, PWA can achieve turbocharged performance. The ones we've been building here at JH can clock in around 4 seconds if we look at the time to interactive metric. And we use that because it's not just the point at which things are displayed, but the point at which things are actually functional. The point at which somebody can actually start shopping on the website. Now, if you want to put all these speed numbers in terms of your bottom line, check out Mobile Speed Report by Google. It provides a handy little calculator where you can punch in some of your top level figures about sessions and conversion rate, and then find out, how you compare against competitors, and, just how every second might equate to thousands, if not millions of pounds, dollars, whatever currency you operate in, to your business. So, turbocharged site speed, reducing the end-to-end friction for customers in terms of loading, in terms of kind of page-to-page transitions, in terms of the smoothness, that helps merchants to achieve, better conversion rate, better stickiness. Now, having loaded the PWA, consumers can start to enjoy the buying journey. And with a PWA, that's smoother, it's more intuitive, it's more interactive than ever before. And this starts to encourage deeper engagement, greater satisfaction with the overall experience. And that not only helps the short-term conversion, maybe with a first-time shopper, but it can also start to help with long-term retention, that people can know they can come back to you and it's going to be easy to get the job done again. Now, there's many APIs available to start providing capabilities like geolocation, camera access, speech input, payment processing, all the things that were previously exclusive to native apps. And as support for PWA has continued to grow, rich features like VR and AR have become available too. They're provided via the Web XR API. And very quickly, what's possible on the web has become less about the technical feasibility, all those kind of questions that I showed before about the how there, and it's become more about innovative design. How do we take these capabilities and do something interesting with them? And we are starting to see some really clever interactions used across adopters by PWA, but specifically in e-commerce as well. I've got a few on the screen here for you. You've got George, which sells kind of clothing. It's attached to one of the big supermarkets here in the UK, and they looked at using voice input for search queries, so that on mobile, where maybe it's harder to type in, or you're on the go, you can use your voice to start querying. And their PWA, not necessarily just because of the search, but the other things they were doing there, managed to achieve a 31% conversion rate. We've got Lancome, which uses camera APIs and kind of like an augmented reality thing to let you try on lipstick and makeup using the front-facing camera. And then something like Pure Formula's doing a really interesting thing here, using native payments. So instead of having to plug in Apple and Google Payments using whatever payment provider you've got, you can go connect into the native payment systems that you might be familiar to seeing on a native app. And Pure Formulas, another one there with an impact because of the PWA, 14% uplift in their conversion rate. So 3 examples here, doing something innovative, seeing good results. Now, there's one headline feature that is perfect for triggering repeat engagement, and that's push notifications. Customers who visit a PWA can opt into notifications via pop-up prompt. And retailers could use them for a range of things. So, flash sales, restocked products, delivery updates, maybe a new range being launched. A really good way to kind of start reaching out to people and bringing them back in, a way that websites have never been able to do before. Another obvious use case is to re-engage customers who have abandoned their basket. Carrefour used web push notifications to deliver personalized reminders in this situation. And that feature alone resulted in a conversion uplift of 350%. That's incredible, a triple-digit uplift there of one feature. Now, what's really great is that the modular nature of progressive web apps, the fact that it is really an umbrella term for a whole array of technologies, that really means that, there's a lot of flexibility when it comes to implementation. And so, you can look across these features and really think, well, what's going to work for you? What's going to work for your customers? You can cherry pick individual features just to enhance here and there. Or what you could do is, maybe if you're ready for a re-platform or a site rebuild, you can look at transforming the entire end-to-end experience, maybe plugging in several things at once. So let's just cap off that enhanced interactivity bit. Features that people love can now be achieved on the web. And that keeps them more engaged and better satisfied. And as you can see, starts to contribute to those higher conversion rates. Now, when you think about a native app, what do you picture? A little icon sat in a grid on a home screen, ready to be launched. They're readily accessible and feel integrated with the device. They travel with you. They invite repeat use. Compared to the mobile web, native apps and have much better engagement metrics. People spend longer in apps, they abandon less often in apps, they spend more per order in apps, and they return sooner to apps. And by being installed on a device, that's clearly critical to achieving long-term customer loyalty and revenue. Now, thankfully, this is another trick that PWAs can match, and in some cases, even beat. By being installed, PWA is able to break free of the web browser and launch instantly as a full screen experience, almost indistinguishable from what you would expect from a regular app. The one-touch actions are available in the browser to start the process, and you can even do this on desktop. You'll get a little icon, a little notification up in the address bar of some of them. On Android, these can even be carefully timed and placed to maximize your chance of converting somebody from somebody who's just engaged with your brand to somebody who's got it installed on the device. Now, you might be going, hey Joe, you said earlier people are reluctant to install apps, and you're right. And in this regard, PWA have a few tricks up their sleeve. So the app files are smaller, there's no redirection to an app store, and the download can happen in the background while your customer continues their journey. But critically, if you think about it, because a PWA is just a website, when somebody lands there, they're already using it. They already get what you've got. They can already test drive it. And so it's much easier for you to justify that installation. PWA can even be served in app stores too. Microsoft welcomes them, Google do. I believe you put them on the Samsung store as well. You've just got to be aware that Apple's guidelines are still, native only at the moment. And if you're a brand that wants maximum reach, well, your strategy can always be to have a native app and have a PWA. For installability, Rakuten24 saw improvements in almost every one of their engagement metrics, plus their commercial ones. Compared to regular web users, people who'd installed their PWA had 310% more frequency in terms of their repeat visit and 400% increase in their retention. And that contributed to a 200% increase in their conversion rate. So engaged customers can install your store onto their device, opening the door to a persistent and personalized experience, one that strengthens their loyalty and allows you to start tailoring the experience to hone those conversion rates even further. Now, apps of any type, native, PWA, whether they're installed or not, often rely on streaming data from a server. Even here in the UK, where we've got a really solid, fast 4G and 5G service, it's common to experience failing hardware, disrupted signals, and dead zones in buildings and train tunnels. So if you're selling to the next billion, that's going to be an even bigger problem, right? And you're going to be really aware of these conditions about, well, where are people taking that PWA? What is the environment there? And connectivity is one of the big factors there. And one of those 4 app-like characteristics I spoke about earlier that PWA can also bring is the reliability. So those loading techniques that help to make it lightning fast, they also allow the PWA to handle poor internet connections too. And in some cases, if you really, really want to push the envelope, they can be made to continue working in certain ways when completely offline. So users no longer have to be completely roadblocked by a blank screen or by buttons that don't do anything as they try to continue going. I mean, the simplest thing you can do is offer a graceful, you're offline notice. Sorry, we'll pick up in a minute. But there's more creative ways e-commerce sites can encourage customers to continue once they've been connected. I've got a few examples here for you. So one thing they could do is cache recently viewed products, or maybe the things in their basket or wish list, so that they can access those specific products they've got a high intent for, and continue evaluating them. And then they can actually do the business of triaging their basket and going to checkout. Or maybe you can give them some promotional offers, a discount, give them an enticement to complete their journey when they're back online. Or maybe you just present some inspirational content, something to entertain them, to enthuse them while they wait. Offline access is one of the features that Trivago chose to focus on when they built their PWA. And it makes sense. You've got a company serving dozens of countries, each with unknown levels of network service. And for them, people who went offline were offered a maze game, something fun to do. And those people, 67% continued browsing afterwards. They didn't go open another app. They didn't just give up and bounce. 2/3 were coming back to continue their journey. So when the connection falters with a PWA, your store doesn't need to. And your customers can stay on task instead of growing frustrated. So that's just a little taste of how progressive web apps features can transform the customer experience. But you might still be wondering if that truly does translate into commercial results. And I'm here to say, you bet it does. And to prove it, what I want to do is just take you through 3 real-world stores that we've built here at JH, just so you can see how PWA can apply across different sectors and deliver just really incredible results time after time. Our most recent PWA launch is this one, is Woody's. It's a fantastic example of how design and technology can come together and take everything to a really high standard. It provides a radically modern platform that puts the merchant 2 steps ahead in terms of its competitors today, and as it progresses down its roadmap, introducing new features. Every aspect from real-time stock to a local store locator has been built to work for the user and then deliver on the bottom line. Now you can see here, starting with the speed, we cut load times in half with the way that we build our PWAs there. And look at some of these commercial numbers here. Conversion rate up almost 80% overall, and revenue up just over 60% overall. Those are huge double-digit numbers that they've enjoyed since launch. Another recent store packs in pretty much everything we've ever learned about implementing a PWA. Workwear Express, really raises the standard for UX far above what you may have seen in standard PWA demos. And the headless architecture that we use here, and it's enabled us to achieve, bespoke pieces of journey of interactivity. So, this is a B2B site, people buying in bulk. So there's, rich product customizers and order calculators. And, we've been able to make them succeed on any device, not just on desktop, as it was with their previous site. So again, incredible impact on that load time, but look at the numbers here for mobile, 20% lift in mobile conversion rate, but even more importantly, a 60% lift in mobile revenue. We're really seeing that because of the speed we got there, because of the experience we got there, customers who maybe previously, researched on mobile and switched to desktop have actually been able to continue and complete their purchase without switching device. Final example I want to show you today is a site we launched earlier last year, Selco, and that was the first B2B site powered by Magento and PWA at the time. The site incorporates everything you might want to find: intelligent search, real-time stock, project planning tools. It even provided such a good experience that native apps that they'd been maintaining were, considered for mothballing, so they could double down on the web. And here the numbers are even better. These are year-on-year numbers. Triple-digit uplifts here, 145% lift in conversion rate, over 400% increase in mobile transactions. For them, it really made sense to do PWA. They are selling building materials to builders who are on the go in their vans, getting to and from the site. They just want to be able to get on the phone and go, right then, I'm going to need this, this, and this today. I want to go collect it from store. Everything just aligned with the users. So a fantastic example of understand the users, deliver a journey and experience that responds to that. And you don't just have to take my word for it, though. I've shown a lot of case studies today, JH's ones belonging to others. I highly recommend checking out PWA stats, where you can maybe see a few more, maybe find something in your own sector that might be a little more relevant. But absolutely take it from me. People building PWA, are seeing some really, really fantastic results. So let me just wrap up by recapping the key points from this session for you. First of all, more consumers than ever are browsing and buying on mobile devices. Their behavior and expectations have been shaped by native apps. Nevertheless, they express a preference for the mobile web. And so the challenge for merchants is to provide a higher level of experience that can really delight those customers. And PWAs offer a direct response to that challenge. They're not simply a technical fad with a 3-letter acronym. That merchants can build stores that feel like a native app, that are fast, that are integrated, that are reliable, that are engaging. And by doing that, they can improve those customer experience metrics, the satisfaction, the loyalty, the advocacy as well. And that user-centered strategy can achieve business-centered results too. And I've demonstrated to you double and triple digit uplifts there across KPIs, conversion, lifetime value, churn, you name it. And, I really say, adopting it now is still an opportunity to leap ahead, even if it's just for something like the speed benefits. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching this session. I really hope it's open to your eyes the opportunities of what we can provide to customers. If you want to discuss anything in more detail, we're going to have a little bit of Q&A, but otherwise you can reach out to me personally using the details on the screen now. There's also further information, examples available via the JH website and social accounts. And we're always continuing to launch new projects and share more as we learn about it. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Joseph. There were so many details that business often overlook when building e-commerce stores. Joseph, thanks for amazing speech that I'm sure will help many businesses to avoid costly mistakes. And indeed, we have the questions asked in the chat and QA section. And the first question is from the Mark Lee, and that is, can you measure the success of using PWA?
Can we measure the success? I think absolutely. I think you can see in the kind of case studies that I shared there towards the end, a lot of those statistics there were, before and after stats. So often what we're showing there is, say, the 12 months before, 12 months after. That way we can eliminate a certain level of seasonality from the data. And yeah, you can literally see on analytics charts the day of launch. You can see the speed graphs coming along like this and cutting in half like that. You can see the conversion rate coming along and going up like that. So we literally see, when I've spoken about PWA being a step change for the customer experience, well, for the businesses, you see a step change there in the results, absolutely. And that might be your commercial ones. You might be looking at conversion rate, revenue, transactions. But I know a lot of people this year are looking at stuff like core web vitals as well. There's the kind of the metrics that kind of relate to speed and their SEO. And pretty much whatever you want to pick, we've typically seen a really strong uplift there. Always some sort of double-digit uplift.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much for your answer. And the second question is from Robert Thornton, and the question is, how do customers see the difference when using PWA?
Yeah, John, I think what's it's maybe not a see thing. I think it's a feel thing. I think some of it is going to be that speed. It's the less waiting around. It's the fact that you might move from a home page to a category, and products are just popping in straight away like that. And so there's just this sense of getting the job done that people have. Plus, there's also that opportunity to do something interesting, to do something cool. Those examples where you can start to bring in, some of those hardware capabilities, like access to the camera and to other sensors and whatnot. With the Selco example, we enhanced wish lists to become like a project planning tool. So the builders weren't just saying, "Oh, I needed these products for a job," but they were able to kind of put in details about the project. They were able to take kind of pictures of the site, pictures of plans, and upload those using those APIs. And so all of a sudden, we were able to really kind of build up what's possible with a wish list to serve that kind of customer, and kind of provide kind of value add there. So sometimes the difference is about what you can innovate on that maybe a competitor isn't doing, for example. That little bit of something special. Because I think when it comes to kind of your core e-commerce experience, the reality is normal website, PWA, native app, we always know there's going to be category, product, basket, checkout. Like it's not necessarily about trying to innovate those steps. They are solved. We know that they work. It's about finding stuff like on the checkout, well, what if we could give you a native payment button that pops up that little input, and you never go to the checkout? You're just going to go open, do your ID verification, done. Like those are those kind of little moments that suddenly make customers go, "Oh, wow, that was easy. I never had that before." And I think that's, like I say, that's those moments that are the difference.
And now the next question we have is from Anonymous. And Anonymous wants to know, what does PWA change from a customer perspective?
Well, I think it's a lot of the stuff that I've just outlined there. I think the reality is they've got this opportunity to have this this better experience in whichever way you choose to do it. Like I say, at JH, we build the full integration kind of thing. We're building the proper headless single page app, server side rendered, like the real cream of the crop, full job. But you might just want to pick one or two things there. You might just want to do the offline mode. You might just want to do the voice input search, for example. And so what differs really depends on your strategy. It depends on which features you pick, and as I've said, that then depends on, well, what's going to benefit your customers. Some of these features don't make sense. The reason why I keep coming back to speed is that's universal. Everybody would love more speed, but maybe it's also worth thinking about what doesn't change. It's still a website. You can still go to it in your browser. You can still interact with it the ways that you're familiar with. And so that offers a really, Joey, in terms of that on-ramp for PWA, and like I said, that opportunity for people to test drive before installing, that's something worth remembering as well, that there is also some stuff that's familiar, that's the same.
Okay. Thank you again for the answer. The next question is, what makes PWAs better than native mobile apps? So this kind of versus.
Yeah, do you know what? I mean, a lot of what I presented there is about trying to say that parity is possible, isn't it? A lot of it is about saying, well, apps could do it, and now PWA can do it as well. I think some of what makes it better, for a merchant in particular, may be seen behind the scenes. So the fact that you can have a single code base that you're now deploying to every type of device, that you can update easily, that it doesn't have to go via the app store, and and that taps into web-based skills that you've already got. You're not having to go find an Apple developer and an Android developer and go through all of that kind of stuff and the investment that goes with it. So for some merchants, if we just look at the merchant side for a minute, those kind of benefits of it being still a web platform are really powerful things that native apps can't beat. And it's not just that implementation thing, it then translates through into like marketing as well. You can still link to a PWA, you can still share a PWA, whereas apps, as we know, are installed in a walled garden and then launched kind of still in a walled garden as well. So that's kind of one of the big what makes it better. I think another thing here is, and maybe this is a JH thing. Again, like I say, we build in a headless architecture, so we decouple the back end Magento from the front end PWA application. And what we found there is that by getting that in place, you've got a lot more agility in terms of being able to iterate the front end or back end and not kind of break things, as long as the API connection stays in place. So what that means is we can very rapidly roll out improvements to customers, or it means that your lifetime cost of running that app is probably lower than running a native app would be. So maybe a few things that are more about the merchant, but I think we've got to nod to some of that sometimes.
Next question will be rather short, I think. The question is from Mark Berger, and do your browsers support PWA?
This is
I think it's kind of yes or no question, yeah?
It is yes and no. It depends. Yeah, I would say all modern browsers, all modern devices are capable of supporting PWA, but what level of PWA, that's what depends. And this is where the P comes in, the progressive bit. It's about progressive enhancement. So you can have two devices with different levels of support, and the one with more capability can get a richer experience. But it doesn't mean that this one here is getting a bad one. It's just that this one enjoys something else. Okay?
Okay. Yeah, wonderful. And last but not least question is, are there any PWA limitations? So kind of limitations in it?
Yeah, I think so. So, and again, this might be a technical thing here, but, you've, depending how you build them, the kind of different services that you bring in, if you're doing that API based, if you're doing headless, you've got to be really kind of aware of how they can connect and what kind of impact they might have on something like speed, for example. You could do all that investment in a fast PWA and then a third party can drag it down. I think you've also got to be aware that Apple, while it supports PWA, doesn't support it to the level of Android. So you've got to be aware that there is, as I've just described, a bit of a discrepancy there in experience. And you need to think about that and maybe design for that as well. And I think probably the last thing is probably like a capabilities thing on the team. I think even though PWA are really well adopted, I think you still need like quite a mature development team to implement them well. And I think you need quite an innovative kind of strategic kind of design thinking to really get the most from it, and to make it not just be rebuilding your website for the sake of it. You really want to be pushing forwards.
Thank you, Joseph, again for sharing your knowledge. I guess we're running out of time, and thank you for sharing the experience with us.
That's all right.
Yeah. And we're moving to the next session. It will start just in a few minutes with Lee Hammer. We'll talk about the marketing results delivered by PWA. Join us, and you, Joseph, also join us if you want to learn more about it. Thank you again, and have a nice conference.
Okay, cheers. Thank you.